Is the light going out for Philips, Martin?
Let's hope it doesn't happen, because that will be something quite a tragic event for a company that exists already for more than a century. Philips, for the people that don't know the company that well, it was founded in 1891 by two brothers, Gerard and his other brother, I don't know exactly the first name. Oh, Anton. Gerard and Anton. They founded Philips in Eindhoven. Why in Eindhoven? In the Netherlands, in the south, because that was the only place where they could find a warehouse to start their business. And what were they actually starting? They were starting a business to make light bulbs. So that's what they became really, really famous with. And they were also a little bit ahead of the crowd. They did things a little bit different. They didn't want to depend on any other external party, where they are suffering from nowadays, we could say, with the supply chain issues. They were, at those times, they had their own glass factory, they had their own metal factory. So they were producing everything themselves. They were making laboratories to find out the best materials to make light bulbs. And that was approximately around 1912, 1920.
I always understood that from the beginning that they already were able to create a light bulb that could exist for 100 years.
Yeah, you told me that once. But
because I think that's based on the little spiral in the middle.
Wire in the middle.
Yeah, they made it really thin.
Yeah.
So it breaks
quick.
After
but if you make it
2 years. But if you make it thicker, of course you consume more energy, but it doesn't break. If you don't let the light bulb fall.
If you don't let it fall, and if it doesn't shock.
So besides the fact they were really entrepreneurs and they were really technical,
they were also commercial.
They were really commercial.
To make that little wire really thin. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So, and then there was a little bit of a shift in the company that started in the 90s, 1990, and that was when they started setting up different divisions. And those divisions are actually nowadays still active. Before that, actually, it's important. If you know the old music cassettes, they were made by Philips. They were invented by Philips, and together with Sony, they were also at the footprints of the CD. So they're a company that did a lot of things that we, of course, nowadays don't use anymore, but they did that in the past. Yeah, some people do indeed. So what they did is they moved away slightly, or they already were doing that in the past, but they were moving away from the light bulbs more into different divisions. And there was healthcare, consumer lifestyle, domestic appliances like toothbrushes, etc., and innovations. And their slogan is bringing together innovation and people. So that is what they do. And I think that is, I always find it a nice brand. They were capable of always come through a lot of difficult times. And what they did before they set up those 4 divisions, they sold a company which is nowadays really, really famous and popular amongst Dutch investors, which is ASML. And they sold ASML to set up those different divisions. So they want to concentrate on those 4 divisions. But for your information, they sold the shares, 4 million shares approximately in 1995, for a value of 112 million guilders, which is nowadays about 50 million euros. If they would have kept that and they would have kept ASML within their business model, that would have a value nowadays of approximately 200 billion. So it's quite a big difference. 2 billion. That's, of course, 200 billion is too much. That's not possible. 2 billion. So what is happening now? They have issues with a machine in the sector healthcare, and it's a machine that you can buy when you at night you sleep and you wake up because your breathing stops. It's a specific machine. And what apparently happens is when you use that machine, you breathe in little pieces of foam and dust and things that are not so good for your respiratory system, which is already not so good because you need to use this machine. So last year, they were actually still performing quite well. The stock was undervalued even. They made a revenue of almost 608 million on a turnover of 17.2 billion, which was an earnings per share of 365 for the year 2021. The first quarter of this year, they started with a loss of 151 million. So that is quite a big difference. If last year you were making almost 608 million and now you're losing in the first quarter already 151 million. It's just in one quarter. Why is that? Because they already pulled back 5.3 million of those machines, of those breeding machines. And they made a reservation of about 950 million, 1 billion approximately.
Do those machines have something to do with COVID?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with COVID. It's just apnea is a disease of the malfunction of your lungs. But of course I think they might have sold more due to COVID problems, but I didn't really find an article or something specific about it. And then another thing, what they're really struggling with, I just mentioned it in the beginning, the supply chain issues. They can't get the little parts and pieces for everything that they're doing, so they're not selling as much, they're not producing as much as they might want to. And the biggest issue...
Yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No. I think I wanted to ask something about that, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue, what now comes around the corner, nobody really knows, they are quite themselves ignoring it or not paying a lot of attention to it, but there is a big difference if the Department of Justice or the Department of Health in the US starts an investigation. When the Department of Justice starts an investigation and starts asking for things, then you should be worried. It's what I understood from all the research that I've done, because if somebody stands up and starts claiming, and everybody starts claiming, then
in the US,
then that could be a really, really perfect storm for Philips. So they do whatever they can to fix the problems. They ask the investors for patience.
And what they have now, what kind of legal problems do they have?
Yeah, it's not clear yet. No, the only thing that is known now is that initially the health department of the US, the government, started an investigation. They came up with the fact that they need to pull back these machines. It's the same thing when you buy a car and it needs to go back to change a part. That's one thing. But now the Department of Justice started investigating. They just started the investigation, and the fact that they start that makes a lot of investors, and that's what we saw on the stock market this week. The stock price went down almost 40%. So 40, yeah. Yeah, it was at during the of course when it started, because it was at 50 or something. Now it's at 24 euros.
And do you know if they if the problems are really big, can they isolate it only related to the US market?
No, I can't tell you. They can't tell you. I mean,
or maybe it's already the problem.
They say yes. They say don't worry. They say literally, investors, please have faith in us. We will solve this. That's literally what the CEO said. We will take care of this. We have already made the reservation of 770 million. They put another 300 million away. But that is a lot of money, guys, because that is almost a yearly profit that they are having to allocate to this. So there will not be any profits for the investors. So that is not a good thing for people that have the stock for dividends, because it's normally it's quite okay dividend always with Philips. So that will, you see that in the price.
And the clients or the people that use them, what kind of real problems did they experience, or is it more like a preventive? That they found out it's not good.
Yeah, they found out.
No people died because of it directly.
I didn't find any figures on the fact of people died. And another funny thing is I found as well, because of course these figures were not so good, but the analysts were expecting much worse figures. People are still buying Philips products. Healthcare systems, they're still buying these things. So the people are not turning their backs, the consumers. And the hospitals, they're still buying them. So their clients, which are in this case larger hospitals and places, doctors, etc., they still keep buying Philips stuff. So it's not like it's completely end of the world, but it's something that you have to
the thing is, how big is this problem?
Yeah, and that we will find out. I mean, that will probably take another half a year, I think, before we really know.
Yeah.
So difficult times for Philips. Very difficult times.
I was 3 weeks ago in New York, and I saw a guy walking, and I think he was late in his 20s, maybe 30, and he was wearing a Walkman.
Really?
Yeah. And I really don't... It took me 3 weeks to I didn't ask him why, but I couldn't also figure it out. I still don't know why. So maybe also the discs are coming back, or maybe also the cassettes are coming back.
Yeah, it could be.
And maybe they have some patent in it, so that it can save on the other side.
That's a funny comment.
Yeah. And what you are saying is, they are used to change management, and that's how it's called.
Yeah.
So they changed during the 130 years so many times. But always the problems were not that big. If the problems are too big from a financial perspective, then you can't change anything about it. And also, I find it always a funny thing. If you look at the logo of Philips, probably they will put it in the screen. It's already in the screen before we mention it. I think it's still the logo from the beginning, and it represents the radios that they develop with the lights, and if you see the flashes from the lights. So it's a good example that, never change your logo. Because if it's so strong, even when it has nothing to do anymore with the products that you produced 130 years ago.
Completely agree with you. completely agree with you.
So it's something that people should be aware of.
I think it might for I mean, you're looking at this as an English speaking person, so you might not find it extremely that it's top of your mind what is happening with Philips, but I think it's worthwhile knowing about it because it is a heavyweight stock in the Dutch index. We're from the Netherlands, and for us it was in the news. It's in the Dutch financial newspapers. It was on the 8 o'clock news. So it is a big thing. It is a big thing.
And I think that the shift that they made and the 4 pillars that they have now, all 4 pillars are focusing on, I think, sectors that have really in the future really good possibilities, chances.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the seminars that you gave about longevity. Yeah, they're all in the longevity area. Yeah.
So if they can tackle this problem, then they will come out really strong. Yeah. Last week we spoke about Netflix, and then we talked about the stock. It went down already this year 60%. Last Friday it was $220. This Wednesday it closed, because it's now Thursday afternoon for us. It closed 185, so even lower. Mm-hmm. And also Spotify came with figures this week. Same kind of model, but they have a subscription model and income model from advertisements. But they're also 60% down this year. They're also, if you look at the chart, it's almost the same. Their top was in the beginning of 2021. Netflix had the top in November 2021. But also like in total 70 or 80% down. Even they announced that their income from advertisement grew with 31% in last quarter. And that's good for around 40% of their total income. So I think Netflix is looking at those figures and hope all those companies, but big companies.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's not an S&P 500.
Netflix might think we're not alone.
Because it's a Swedish company.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we'll keep also focusing on those companies, because interesting times that happen around those companies, and if you are you have a position for a long time, then maybe it's not so good, but you can have a look at it. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, Martin. Hope our Dutch company from the south will survive.
Let's hope so.
Thank you for watching. Give us a thumb.
And if any comments, any questions, just let us know.
Thank you. See you next week.